In this video, we discuss whether Christianity is truly more tolerant than Islam. Instead of focusing on media narratives, we examine the historical and current actions of Christian and Muslim countries. We also condemn the killing of Salwan Momika. Hello, this is Shindi on the Secularists and
Mimi.
Yes, and so today, unfortunately, Brianna is on vacation. Now we're just the two of us. And this topic that we're discussing about whether Christianity is the most tolerant religion, I have a special guest who I'll be interviewing. Probably to be me and Brianna interviewing this guest. Will be coming next time you see, probably after the next time you see this video. We're going to talk about, is Christianity the most tolerant religion? Given, you heard the story about that guy he had burned the Quran and he was shot. Salwan Momika. He was shot. He was in Sweden and he was shot dead. We don't know. Well, people say we don't know, but probably circumstantial evidence could point to that. Most people believe that that's the reason why it was shot, because although we could say we don't know, because we don't have the 5 people who were caught were released, that there was not enough evidence, so we don't know who did it. But we do know about you remember the Charlie Hebdo? I think it was 2015 Charlie Hebdo incident. Charlie Hebdo was a newspaper. I think it's a newspaper, a journal, and they released their satirical journal. So they did a satirical cartoon on the Prophet Muhammad. And then at one point, they had security, but there was only one security. Group of people went over there and shot 12 people were killed. Yeah. Very sad. That was very sad stuff. People have been saying Christianity is tolerant because Christians wouldn't react that. What is your view?
When this topic first came to mind, I was like, yeah, Christians are very tolerant, because why would we do that? But then after some thinking, like deep thinking, I don't know if Christians are really that tolerant. Oh gosh, I had so many thoughts and I don't want to speak about them right now. But Christians, I don't think they're that tolerant when it comes towards those types of acts.
Do you think Christianity is more tolerant than Islam? Do you think you worked?
Okay, so I worked in Islamic school. I did it for 2 years. Went to a Catholic school my entire life, the majority, and was raised Pentecostal. So I've seen 3 sides, right? Yeah. And with my personal experience, yes, Christianity is more tolerant than Islam. Muslim.
Thanks. And you said you were thinking in general. What were your thoughts about Christianity?
So when I think my thought process was going towards Christian hate, and thinking about the history of Christianity in this country in relation to other Christians, right? You have a certain group of people who would do vile acts against, let's just say, Black people, as far as, burning churches because they don't believe, burning crosses upside down. Certain organizations are Christian, like the KKK. So that's where my thought process started to go, as far as, being tolerable or intolerant of certain behaviors.
That's very interesting. So, yes, at the beginning, you remember we were watching that video by Ruzan KD, and he's talking about how Christian is tolerant. And at first I agreed with him. But then I was like, let me do some research. And then when I did some research, and I said, when I look at the results of Christian countries, Christian countries have killed way more people than Muslims have. I'm sorry to put it that way. That's just the truth. And, we could say, Muslims actively will threaten you with violence, but I don't know who is more scary, the person who threatens you directly with violence And the person who just pretends like, we love you, and then you
So,
find out the hardware and the
the
policies and the procedures and all that. Because if you look at America, how they bombed Iraq, America, what they did to America, if you have to take America as a Christian nation, right? Some people say it's not, it's just secular. But let's take that America, because the majority of people claim to believe in God and Christians, right? So let's take that America is Christian. We can go Vietnam War, 3 million people. 3 million Vietnamese that were never sold their lives. So you're going to tell me that Muslims less? I don't buy it. You know what? I bought it at the beginning. Yeah, I was like, yeah. And literally, when Ruslan said it, I said, yeah, you know, Ruslan, I agree with Ruslan. And then I'm like, let me think. By the way, I did not watch a single Muslim apologist. I will say that on this camera. All I watched were Christians who criticized Islam, like David Wood and others. I never watched a single Muslim apologist. And I still came to this conclusion and said, nah, I think we are not looking deep enough.
We're not. So I feel like America has shaped our perception of Muslims. They've tied Muslims and the Taliban together.
Yes.
Oh, they're all terrorists, right?
Yeah.
When I worked at that Muslim school, I'm not going to say I didn't go in there with a bias of I'm scared. I didn't go in there with that. I went in there with an open mind. Okay, let me see, because I want to understand. And when I tell you, for those 2 years, they treated me like family. I was welcome. They taught me. They didn't force me to do anything. I didn't have to wear the hijab. I was respectful, like, I wear my long sleeves. That's also how I am. I'm not showing too much skin. That's also my Christian background. I wouldn't be myself, but I wasn't forced to do. I mean, like, when I tell you, they treated me like family. They treated me like family. I felt more comfortable going to the mosque than I did going to church, right? Yeah. Even though I don't agree with everything, how certain things happen. But I felt welcome. It didn't matter that I wasn't, it didn't matter that I was not a Muslim. I still felt welcome.
For me, this is what I thought. For me, I have friends who are Muslim, but to be honest, I have also Christian friends, and they are all kind to me. Like, they're all good people. So I'm not going to judge based on that. I can't. I've been to a mosque before, and I was treated really well. And I've been to Christian churches where I've been treated really well. I'm not going to be here and say, oh, I got Christians. So all I'm going to say is that I'm a Christian myself. I do think that I had to look at the history. I had to look at the present situation. And I had to look at the so-called Christian nation, right? The West. Because the West technically were Christian, right? And then I look at colonialism. Then I look at slavery. Race-based slavery was Christian, okay? Race-based. Now, slavery existed in Arab slavery, but Arab slavery was not race-based, okay? Anybody could be a slave. Yeah, we could talk about whether Arab slavery was worse or whatever. We could have a conversation. But as far as I am, being a black person, okay, and my tribe, people say, oh, you're from Africa, you probably never experienced. No, my tribe, the Kunda were slaves of the Portuguese. Long story, I don't have time to talk about it here. But slavery, strictly speaking, race-based slavery was Christian. And we can say, oh, no, but it was different. No. It was Christian. Sorry, period. So I'm not going to be here. There are a lot of things that I disagree with Islam. I'm not here to be an advocate for Islam. But I dislike, like the last video we did on Catholicism, I dislike unfair criticism. How does unfair criticism come to be? It comes to be when you're just looking at a narrow point of view, when you fail to consider all the information, the relevant information on making the decision. So some people say, oh, look at what the Quran says. Well, I can look at the Bible too. There's genocide in the Bible. So what are you talking about? Oh, you're going to reinterpret it. No, I think what we need to do, there are jihadis. Well, Christians have their own people in the past. So, and I do think, and also even in the present, there's countries that have declared themselves Christian nation. Okay? Uganda. Zambia. I don't know about Zimbabwe, but Malawi, I think. But I know Zambia is Christian nation. Other countries. They have laws against the LGBTQ. Some of these countries even have the death penalty for LGBTQ, right? So, and they claim to be Christian nations.
Right.
So when I see apologists, Christian apologists, talk about, Islam gave, and I'm like, okay, have you looked at African Christian countries?
Right.
Have you looked at other third world Christian countries?
Yeah.
Are you just looking at the West and comparing it to Muslim countries? Because I think that has to do more with the economy. My personal view is that the intolerance against LGBTQ and other groups has to do with economics rather than necessarily theology. And
why do you say?
Because it looks like, if you look at the West, look at America, the UK, France, where there are a lot of Christians, well, France and less so now. But the UK and the United States are good examples of countries that have, although they have been reduced in number, but they have become more open to the LGBT in the last 30, 40 years. And part of the reason that has happened is because of the economics. If you are comfortable, I'm using lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is where some things that we don't consider, that you may not think about, may be the ones causing it. So for example, people in the past seem very cruel, but if you think about toilets, not having access to toilets, and maybe that's what caused it, because you're really uncomfortable, right? And if you're uncomfortable, you become irritable, right? So in the same way, I do think that economics has to do with what's going on in many African countries. That's just my personal view. It's economics. I think if the economics doesn't, and we can see this, for example, Botswana has decriminalized the anti-LGBTQ laws. They've actually allowed, given more human rights to the LGBTQ community, because Botswana is not technically a third world country, it's a second world country. Its economy is doing much better than most African countries and most of the world. They're doing pretty well. So that's why they have more tolerance than, say, even South Africa, which allows South Africa, gay marriage is allowed. Yeah. It was one of the first countries to give freedom to the LGBTQ, but there's a lot of violence against the LGBTQ because of the economics and the situation in that country. So that's how I look at it. I don't have time to explain it, but you get my point. So I'm not trying to say, so for me, I'm saying that maybe in Islamic countries, the intolerance is kind of the same. It's sort of, maybe it has to do more with economics than we think it does. I might be wrong. I'm open. I've done no research on this, so I'm just speculating that it may have to do with economics. The idea that Christian nations are more tolerant depends on what you're talking about. Right. Okay? So if you're talking about individual freedom, my freedom to go out and have fun, go out and sleep with whoever I want, or what kind of thing. Yes, the West is more tolerant, obviously. Exactly, because Islamic culture is a religion. Yes. That's a lot. Exactly. I mean, it's a sin in Christianity as well, but same thing, we have a little bit more freedom when it comes towards those. Yeah, and the way you dress and all that, men and women dressing, LGBTQ rights, absolutely. I would say that in Christian countries, Western countries to be specific, because if you go to Africa, as I told you, but in Western countries, to be specific, there's more freedom. There's more individual rights, individualism. So if you want to be an individualist, come to the West. But when you're talking about community as a group, then it gets really tricky. And I think the West, might even be behind. The way we treat the elderly in this country. We're going to start, let's not start with that, right? I mean, you look at a lot of things. So it depends on what you're talking about. And I think sometimes we ignore that. I think we tend to think that, and by the way, you're talking to someone who's an individualist. Okay, I'm an individualist. I'm not a communal. I love the Western culture. I love it here. But as I said, I do not like unfair criticism. And unfair criticisms happen when you're not considering everything. You're just considering your point of view and you're trying to make a point of view. So the killing of Sawan Momika, completely wrong. Okay? Completely wrong. Deplorable. Okay. So do they? So you said there were 5 people who they detained. They detained and they were released. We don't know because that was not published. publish, because if you are innocent, they can't publish your information. But I'm willing. This is what my personal view is. If they were not Muslim, I think the Swedish government would have let us know. Like, you know what I mean? They have to be Muslim. That's just my personal view. I think if they were not Muslim, I think we would have already been told that, they were whatever. We can speculate that most likely. And then the Charlie Hebdo, we know that the people who did this were Islamists. What do you think about the idea, should the desecration of the Quran and so on and so on, should there be a ban on that? Like Sawan Momika was on trial for burning the Quran, and so he was disturbing the harmony, was on trial for it. Do you think should we ban burning of holy books? Or, should be arrested for it?
Oh gosh. My personal view and thought, it's a book. It's a book. You could print more books. You could print more Qurans. You could print more Bibles. Is it wrong? I believe it is wrong to burn it. But people also have freedom of speech, right? But burning a book compared to taking someone's life, it does not equate at all. At all. Once again, it's a sacred book. Doesn't matter if it's the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, they are sacred texts and respected to each, religion. And people do take it seriously, but come on. You can get it for $20, but you cannot get this person's life back. That was something that God, sometimes people, want to be God, but let God handle that, because God, Allah, let that being handle that person. You as a human don't have to handle that person. Pray for that person. That's a sin. That person, you can say that person's going to hell. Fine. But to take someone's life for a physical book, to me, it does not equate.
One of the things that most people may have a problem with, one of the things I want to find out is why, if you look at it from the desecration perspective, some people would say it reminds them of colonialism. This idea of Europeans, especially Western countries, going into other territories, destroying their culture, burning everything. If you think about how the Native American sacred lands was desecrated. So they are saying maybe we have to fight back because this is the West. It's kind of reminding them of that period. Get me wrong, I 100% agree with you. What would you say to that? That this is desecration, it's totally wrong, it's reminding us of colonialism, therefore it should be disallowed. They'll say the guys who are sick, they'll say you shouldn't be killing anybody.
No.
Yeah, for it. But they say that something should be done against the person who desecrates.
So should something be done? I personally still don't think so. I still say let God handle them. But if they feel like something should be done, throw them in prison. What I mean, do something, but to take their life, no. I feel like there's other things that you can do, but still, it's a physical book. It really is. And yes, it is the word of God, the prophets. It is that word. But someone's life is just not worth taking over that. As I said, throw them in jail.
Yeah, because they have laws in other countries, in the most Muslim countries, they have laws about blasphemy,
Right.
where they can actually sentence you to death. So the question is that okay, or should we just...
My problem is, once again, people playing God. That is my problem. And I've said it over and over again. People playing God. I don't care. No one has the right to take anyone's life. Let God be the one to smite them.
I totally agree. I think the issue that I have with this, with that, you're 100% right. I'm also, the problem with me is that I'm also a free speech advocate. So I can't advocate any prison sentence or even a fine. Even the trial I was facing, I would have probably. But at the same time, I have to look at it and say desecrating somebody's culture is absolutely deplorable. And desecrating a book is absolutely deplorable. It's sort of like I'm against doing that. The question is, what's the solution for somebody who's a free speech advocate like I am? Because I personally believe that people should have the right to say, they may, if somebody, for example, us being black, if somebody uses racist words against us, I don't want them to go to jail for that. Even though they used racist. Yeah. Yeah, you know.
Go to jail. Something else.
You know, yeah, I know what you mean. I get you. I get it. I don't, I personally wouldn't, I personally wouldn't advocate that they go to jail. Like, right? I think I would say, you know what, you shouldn't go to jail. We shouldn't even be spending taxpayers' money on that. That's all. To me, that's how I look at it. Like, even the same thing with, like, should we be spending tax money on that? So, but a lot of people want something done, especially in the Islamic community, because it's very disrespectful, which is understandable. I don't know what they mean, because they have a high regard for the Quran, they have a very high regard for the Prophet. So is Christian more tolerant?
No.
I doubt it. I don't think it is. When I look at the history and I look at how Christians treated other groups of people, I think the tolerance comes from economic development. And I think if stuff got really bad, it'll be back to square one. That's just my personal view. I think that there's a lot of intolerance in Christian society, and it just happens to be that the economies are doing well, so we can let people be, leave, live and let leave, sort of thing. Because when I look at how many people, I mean, both Second World Wars, the First and Second World War were both caused by Christian nations. Yeah, the Ottoman Empire didn't enter the First World War, but the Ottoman Empire entered late in support of Germany. But anyway, thank you all for listening.
Thank you. I can't wait for the next section.
The next part when we speak to our guest. All right. Thank you. Bye. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.